This is a message to all AMTV viewers. Evacuate your homes. I repeat, evacuate your homes. The area is no longer safe. Evacuate your homes immediately. Evacuate your homes and be careful. Keep your eyes peeled for...
Hi there guys, it's Martyn here, and welcome to this very special video where, as you probably guessed for the intro, we're going to be taking a look at the king of the monsters himself, Godzilla. Now this is a very special box set. I know it looks like a book, but it's actually a Blu-ray box set of Godzilla films. And you may think, why on earth would you want a big set of Godzilla films in the shape of a book? Well, this release is important for a wide variety of reasons. For those who aren't as up to speed with Godzilla, let's have a very quick history of this giant beast. So Godzilla first appeared in 1954 in the Japanese movie Godzilla, eventually making his way over to the West with the 1956 re-edit Godzilla King of the Monsters. And through 1954 to 1975, 15 different films were released, which are now collectively known as the Showa period, or the First Era. After a 9-year break in 1984, Godzilla returned in The Return of Godzilla, or Godzilla 1984, or Godzilla 1985, depending on your region. And for the next 10 years, he would feature in several more movies, which are now known as the Heisei period, or the Second Era. After taking another break, and with the disastrous 1998 American film, the Japanese decided to reboot Godzilla again, releasing several more movies from 1999 up until 2004, which is known as the Millennium Series, or the Third Era. After a 10-year break after Godzilla Final Wars in 2004, the Great Beast returned again in 2014 in another Hollywood-produced version, which went a little better. This was the start of the Monsterverse created by Legendary Pictures, which also includes King Kong. In 2016, the Japanese released Shin Godzilla, which was another reboot, if you like, that was well received, and had an anime trilogy, which you can view here in the UK on Netflix. 2019 gave us Godzilla King of the Monsters, the sequel to the 2014 film, which is actually brilliant. I highly recommend that one. And later this year in 2020, we're going to be getting Godzilla vs. King Kong. But of course, that's just a brief history of Godzilla. So what is this? This is actually the first 15 films, what's known as the Showa era. So these are all the films from 1954 until 1975. Now, Godzilla releases in the West have been a bit sporadic. For example, if you live in Japan, that's great. You've pretty much got access to all of these movies in a variety of different formats and releases. If you're in the US, in the early 2000s, these were released on DVD individually, but now the DVDs are a bit harder to find, they're out of print, and especially if you're in the UK and you want to import those DVDs, you're going to be paying a lot of money. However, in the UK, the Godzilla films had a bit more of a limited release history. Many of the Showa era films had VHS transfers back in the 80s and 90s. However, in terms of DVD, we didn't really get that much. The original film was released a few times, including a BFI release, and King Kong vs. Godzilla was released, well, the American version anyway, by Universal. But aside from that, from my research anyway, there haven't been many official Godzilla DVD releases here in the UK, so this set in particular, not only is it the first ever set ever to gather all the Showa films and put them into one box set, this is also the first time in the UK anyway that many of these films have ever been released to disc, skipping DVD completely and heading straight to Blu-ray. So I've been a Godzilla fan for many years. I was inspired by James Rolfe's Godzilla-thon on Cinematica as part of Monster Madness. I'm sure many of you have seen that. If you haven't and you want an introduction, go and check that out. So from around 2008-9, I've wanted to see these films, and until now I've only seen, the ones released here, so not that many. So now that Criterion finally released a collection of them, I'm very excited to get through this set. But I wanted to share this with you guys as well, so please join me, sit back and relax as we take a look at the Criterion Collection release of Godzilla, the Showa-era films 1954 to 1975. So as you can see here, this is the actual set itself, and it is rather gorgeous, I must say. I don't think anyone would disagree with me there. It's lavishly produced in this book-style format, and the artwork here, let's just appreciate the artwork, is absolutely stunning. A great image of Godzilla himself, blasting away his atomic breath. I love like the bright pinks, the yellows, the blues. It kind of looks like a comic book, and I know some people are dogging that sort of style, but I actually quite enjoy it. Now you might see here on the side, there's a little sleeve, which actually informs you of the 15 Kaiju Classics, as it says, you'll be getting on this release. Now I think it only curves around the side in the UK version. I've seen the US one, I think it just gets stuck on the back. So if you're in the UK, that's what you'll be getting. So I'm going to hold it in place, and we're going to see what films we have on here. To kick off, of course, you're getting the original masterpiece, Godzilla, or Gojira, directed by Ishiro Honda in 1954. Godzilla Raids Again, directed by Motoyoshi Oda in 1955. King Kong vs. Godzilla, directed by Ishiro Honda and Thomas Montgomery. Now, the year they've put on there is the year it was released in the United States, but I'll talk more about that as we go. Mothra vs. Godzilla, directed by Ishiro Honda from 1964. Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster, also directed by Ishiro Honda in 1964. Invasion of Astro Monster, directed by Ishiro Honda in 1965. Ebirah, Horror of the Deep, directed by John Fukuda in 1966. Son of Godzilla, directed by Jun Fukuda in 1967. Destroy All Monsters, directed by Ishiro Honda in 1968. All Monsters Attack, directed by Ishiro Honda in 1969. Godzilla vs. Hedorah, or Hedorah, however you pronunciation, by Yoshimitsu Banno in 1971. Godzilla vs. Gigan, directed by Jun Fukuda in 1972. Godzilla vs. Megalon, directed by Jun Fukuda in 1973. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, directed by Jun Fukuda in 1974. And the last of the Showa-era, Terror of Mechagodzilla, directed by the franchise's original director, Ishiro Honda, in 1975. So those are the 15 films that you get on the set, and if I just hold this onto the spine, that's a gorgeous spine, isn't it? You get the Showa-era films, and this is actually Criterion's 1000th release. I actually don't own any other Criterion releases. For anyone who doesn't know, Criterion basically takes movies, presents them as best they can, and usually has a lot of special features. So if you like that, then you need to go and check out their stuff. But now we're going to delve into the inside of this giant book. Just want to highlight the first double spread there. Look at that artwork, man. Just, oh man, that is some nice artwork. So we've migrated to the floor so I can give you guys a better look at this. So this is the contents. Again, you've got the list of films, or the pages where we talk about them, and you've also got this, Reign of Destruction, which is a write-up by Steve Ryfle. This is a great sort of brief history of the Godzilla franchise, and there's a quote there which says, "While Godzilla has evolved with the times, the Showa series as a whole is undeniably the foundation of this ever-growing pop culture phenomenon. So, let's delve into the film." So there you go, the original Godzilla, and look at that artwork, man. And one thing you'll notice is the artwork is absolutely gorgeous in this. So you've got the film, you've got the Japanese title as well. Obviously this one is Gojira. You have some write-ups about the film, and you've got the cast and credits as well. And it also tells you who the illustrations are done by. But I mean, that's so stunning. Godzilla Raids Again, the 1955 film. There's Godzilla fighting Anguirus. I love the more like black and white tones of this, because of course this film was the last Godzilla film in black and white. And again, you've got the write-ups. Moving on, we have King Kong vs. Godzilla. That's right, a lot of people excited for the 2020 remake don't actually know it's a remake. This came from 1962. Now, interestingly, to my knowledge, the main feature when you pop in King Kong vs. Godzilla on the disc, it's the American international version that Universal released 1 year later in 1963. The Japanese version from 1962 is on here, but instead of being on the main discs, it's included on the supplements discs, which I find a little odd considering the rest of the films on here are the Japanese cuts, but we'll talk more about that a bit later. So that's the third film. Oh, Mothra vs. Godzilla, that's some stunning artwork, look at that. Oh, honestly, you could frame loads of these, that is gorgeous artwork. That's from 1964. Then, of course, you've got probably the most recognizable villain, Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, with some, I guess, Chinese-style art there. That's really nice. Invasion of Astro Monster, and of course, Godzilla is doing the moon dance. I mean, what else could they have picked? For anyone who doesn't know that, just type in Godzilla moon dance. You'll probably find the meme there. Then you've got Ebirah, Horror of the Deep, alternatively known as Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. I haven't mentioned that actually. A lot of these films have alternative titles, especially when they were brought over to the West. I believe the ones they've included here are the original Japanese titles for these films. So as you can see, Mothra's in this as well. That's a nice, cool yellow tone picture. Son of Godzilla, one people either love or hate. There's Minya or Manila, which is like the name of Godzilla's son, who looks nothing like Godzilla. And we question as to how he existed, but we won't go too far into that. Destroy All Monsters. This is gorgeous. I mean, this is like Spot the Monster. I mean, a lot of monsters featured in this, of course. Whole roster of monsters, actually. And also, this was originally meant to be the finale of the Godzilla series, but that didn't last very long, because the next year you have All Monsters Attack, alternatively known as Godzilla's Revenge. And this is really cool artwork, how you got the central kid, the main character, and Godzilla's son looking up at the height of Godzilla here. It really gives that sense of perspective as to how tall and imposing Godzilla is, and I just really like that design. Next, you have Godzilla vs. Hedorah, or alternatively known as Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. This is quite a trippy film from my understanding. It's all about, saving the Earth and environment, and by this point Godzilla was more of a children's hero by then. It was really geared towards kids, but again, I'll talk more about tone at the end of the video, I think. Godzilla vs. Gigan, that's some really cool artwork there, with Gigan in the background. That's so good. You get into more of the meme films, especially this one, Godzilla vs. Megalon, which has the infamous Jet Jaguar there, who is like a giant robot thing, and it's got the flying kick meme that Godzilla does, and this is just a meme film, basically. And then getting to the end, you've got Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, with some great artwork of Mechagodzilla himself there, and finishing off, you have Terror of Mechagodzilla. Now, I find it a bit jarring with like the, ba-ba-ba-ba, kapow, like the comic style sound effects, but I mean, the artwork is actually gorgeous. I really, really do enjoy it. That's really nice, and it's a fine way to close off the Showa-era. But in the back, you've got credits here about the transfers, special thanks, etc. Some more lovely artwork, and then back here is where you get the discs. Now I'm going to actually hold this up. If you look, what I like is in the circle of the disc you have the numbers of which discs these are. I find that really, really helpful. And there'll be multiple films on discs here. So this one is just the first Godzilla, but disc 2, for example, is Godzilla Raids Again and King Kong vs. Godzilla. So some discs have one film, some have two, some even have three. And disc 8 there, supplements. Now, I believe, as I said, the Japanese version of King Kong vs. Godzilla is on here. I'm not sure why this isn't the main version. Well, I don't know why this isn't the main version, basically. It might be something to do with Universal agreeing. And on the back, I didn't show earlier, look at that. I mean, I can't pull this back because it's stuck on and I kind of want to keep it, but it's a lovely image of Godzilla going in the water, basically. So on the back here, let's take a look at this, shall we? Okay, so this is the back sleeve of the release, which obviously says the title. In 1954, an enormous beast clawed its way out of the sea, destroying everything in its path and changing movies forever. The arresting original Godzilla soon gave rise to an entire monster movie genre, Kaiju Iga. But the King of the Monsters continued to reign supreme. In 14 fiercely entertaining sequels over the next 2 decades, Godzilla defended its throne against a host of other formidable creatures, transforming from a terrifying symbol of nuclear annihilation into a benevolent, if still belligerent, Earth protector. Collected here for the first time are all 15 Godzilla films of Japan's Showa era, in a landmark set showcasing the technical wizardry, fantastical storytelling, and indomitable international appeal that established the most iconic giant monster the cinema has ever seen. I think that's quite a fitting write-up. I forgot to mention that Godzilla is often considered the first kaiju film as well. 8 Blu-ray special edition collector's set features high-definition digital transfers of all 15 Godzilla films, which is pretty good, released together for the first time with uncompressed monorail soundtracks. That's good. Again, this is landmark because these 15 films have never been gathered in one set before. You've got high-definition digital transfers of Godzilla King of the Monsters. That, yes, you get the US 1956 re-edit. Not, again, interestingly put that on there and not some of the others, but, you get it. It's history. And you get the 1962 Japan release version of King Kong vs. Godzilla. Why it's not the main focus is anyone's guess. Audio commentaries from 2011 and Godzilla King of the Monsters, featuring the film historian David Kalat, and I believe that's from Criterion released the first Godzilla on its own back then, so I think that's from that. Now, this is interesting. You get the international English language dub tracks for Invasion of the Astro Monster, Son of Godzilla, Destroy All Monsters, Godzilla vs. Megalon, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, and Terror of Mechagodzilla. And I know this has been a big contention for a lot of people. Only 6 of the films have English dubs. Obviously, King Kong vs. Godzilla is the US cut, so you could bump that to 7. And technically, you can watch the US cut of the original Godzilla, so maybe that's 8. It's funny that not all of the films have English dubs. When they've been released on DVD previously in like the US, they've always had an international dub of some kind, to my knowledge, so why they couldn't or why they didn't is a bit confusing, but I don't mind reading subtitles, so that doesn't bother me too much. You get the Directors Guild of Japan interview with director Ishiro Honda, who made 8 of these on this set from 1990. You get programs detailing the creation of Godzilla's special effects, which is pretty cool if you ask me. You get a new interview with filmmaker Alex Cox about his admiration for the Showa-era Godzilla films, nice. You get archival interviews with cast and crew members, which it will be really cool to watch as well. You get more interviews there, you get an illustrated audio essay, nice, trailers, new English subtitle translations, which might be useful, and that big one there is basically talking about this book, which is, you know, you've got to give credit to the artist there. So that is what you're getting a wealth of extra content as well as these 15 films. So, we've taken a look at what is on this behemoth of a set, but of course the question always has to come down to, is it worth it? Now, one thing to note, this is not a cheap set. Okay, if you're going to be purchasing this, I purchased this from Criterion themselves at the time, and I paid £150 for this. Yeah. But, hear me out. There's 15 films on here, okay? And the vast majority of them have never been released here in the UK, so 150 divided by 15 is 10, so roughly £10 each per movie, okay? If I wanted to import the US DVDs over to the UK, I'd be paying more than £10 in shipping fees alone. So for someone like me, a UK viewer, this is well worth the purchase. You can obviously get the West version of this, the Region A version of this. This is Region B for UK players. I'm sure you can get this most places around the world, but I guess you've got to weigh up if it's going to be right for you. If you're really fussy about HD and you want those nice transfers, maybe get this. But if you've got your DVDs and you're sort of like, I've got the Godzilla collection, I can watch them when I'm not too bothered about the special features, then maybe this isn't worth the big investment and upgrade. However, I think if you're like me and you're a UK Godzilla fan, this is an absolute must, especially if you like the early Showa-era films. It's funny the flack the Showa-era gets because, yes, obviously it starts really dark with the original and it gets a bit more goofy and child-friendly as you get into the late 60s, early 70s. But to be honest, I find that part of the charm of Godzilla. It's cool how you can go from films that are really dark and really serious to films that are a bit more lighthearted and a bit more goofy. And let's face it, no one makes giant monster movies like the Japanese, and it really shows off the artistry behind them. I like the Showa-era despite all of that stuff, you may not. And I think that's it. If you're not into like that more goofy side and you'd only watch the dark stuff, I'd say this isn't worth the investment. You've got to go into this knowing you're getting all those 15 films, and I say you've got to love them to some degree. But of course, I mean, this isn't going to fit on your standard DVD shelf. I've got somewhere where I can put it, like where I want to show it out. So if you're expecting this to fit on your standard DVD shelf, unless you've got really high shelves, this ain't going to fit. But in the UK, at least, you can get it from Criterion themselves. You can get it from zoom.co.uk. You can probably find a few sellers listing it on eBay. But again, the lowest I've seen for it at the minute is about £150. I think its value will increase over time because this is, of course, a limited edition set. So once these go, be prepared for the scalpers charging high prices for things like this. Ultimately, though, I think this is a beautiful package to preserve Godzilla history, and especially the first 15 films. I'm glad here in the UK they've actually finally been released on disc, especially in the same year we're going to get the remake of Kong vs. Godzilla, so that's incredible. UK fans, definitely go and purchase this while you can. US and other fans who are out there in the world, maybe do your research, or if you've got the DVDs, really make sure you want to get this first. But a beautiful set from Criterion, and definitely worthy of the King of the Monsters. One final note I will say is, if you're expecting to buy this and have all of the movies have an option where the audio is English, that is not the case, and I think that's very important to note. Now, I don't mind watching films in other languages and reading subtitles. I do that a lot with great films I like. All of these, the main features are the Japanese films with Japanese audio with English subtitles. As I mentioned earlier, about 6, 7, 8 of these films have English audio options, but half of these films do not. Please bear that in mind if you're buying this expecting it to be all English audio. That's not the case. You will have to watch some of these films in Japanese with their English subtitles, and if you're really picky about that and you want English audio, then you're going to have to turn to the DVDs from the US. You're going to have to import them in because I believe all of them have English audio to them. I hope it doesn't just stop here. I hope they do releases for the later series, the Heisei series and the Millennium series. That would be really cool to have 3 big books like this. I've already sent in my request to Criterion, and you can too. If you want them to make a Heisei series box set, you can email them with your requests for sets, and hopefully that will come to fruition one day. Let me know in the comments, do you own this Godzilla set? Are you excited for the new movie coming later this year? Are you going to pick up this set? Do you own the DVDs? Let me know your thoughts on the Showa era of Godzilla. What are your favourite moments? What do you enjoy? Please give this video a like as well, and I know a lot of you who watch my videos aren't subscribed, so if you could please hit that subscribe button with notifications on, that just really helps out the channel, it helps out me, and it also means you get more notified as to when I'm uploading new content, which at this point is every single day. Thank you very much for watching, and until the next one, I will see you guys next time.
Well, that does bring us to a close this evening on AMTV. We do hope you enjoyed the programme, and please do keep your eyes open for brand new content that will be coming to you soon. Until then, have a very good week, and we hope that you join us again soon. Good night.